Awesome. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. So glad you guys are here. Welcome, Pontus. Thank you for being here last minute and coming in so we can pick your brain about what it's like to be a reflector. Kathy was just saying she's never met one actually in person. I've met one in person knowingly. So it would be wonderful to have your guidance on what's most important for us to transmit to reflectors if we do have them in our classes. And just talk to you as a person, a reflector person, that we can kind of ask the biggest questions about what it's like to be you. So would that be okay if we ask a little bit about your story and your
Yeah,
transformation of, okay, so how long ago was it that you found human design?
it's over 10 years ago now.
10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you like have a flash of recognition right away that this was right for you?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I did. Well, I deeply resonated with information that I'm open, and it makes so much sense to me why I used to experience that I was so different from everyone else and that no one really understood me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the questions that came up for me recently is somebody said, a reflector said that he was accused of being like multiple personalities. Is that something that you can see in yourself, or you ever, because of you're so different throughout the month?
Yeah, well, I never thought about it like that. So no, actually not. I'm used to, I'm different. I change, but it's not like, yeah, it's not like I have one personality either. It's just my personality is changing in a way, but I wouldn't, yeah, it's, yeah, I think there is aspects um, that's consistent in me. The moon moves through me every month, so there is some consistency there. And of course, if you look in at me over a month, there are aspects that changes. But in terms of the personality, I would say it's pretty much the same. It's just how I express or experience life that changes. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. How you express and experience life changes. I like that.
Mhm.
What I heard from Darman was that his mom accused him of having his head in the clouds. Is that something that you've been accused of too? That you would say all reflectors are kind of like that?
No, I don't think so. Well,
Okay.
yeah, well, I heard that I'm dreamy sometimes, but no, I've never been really accused for that. No.
Okay. Okay. And please, everybody, feel free to open up if there's a question that fits into the conversation that comes in. I'm just trying to see if, because now we have a live reflector, we can kind of ask about what it's like to be him. And we're looking at his chart now to see what it's like. So my question is what we are told at the BG5 Business Institute, because you have no consistency here, is that we'll focus you on the core essence and grounding and balance, the sun and the earth.
Mhm.
And if we take a look at where these channels are, these two are in projected channels, and this one is in a projected channel as well, and this one is in a generated channel. So do you see a difference between reflectors in that some of them might be more like, conditioned to be like generators or conditioned to be like manifestors, depending on what these gates are showing up as?
Well, honestly, I haven't done any research like that.
Okay.
Um, I know that, reflectors can be deeply conditioned and lost in all their openness, and I experienced that too. But in terms of depending on your inclination cross, where it is, how the reflector kind of tend to be, if there is a tendency for a greater conditioning towards trying to be a generator or manifestor, I guess. But I don't have any observations from my own experience.
Okay. So the other question that I have is Loki's mom, when we were working together, told me that with reflectors, that you guys have a real serious lack of energy. Like we're talking about non-energy types when it comes to projectors and reflectors. If
Yeah.
they're the two, you guys are the ones that are usually having issues with.
Yeah.
Is that, you see that with all your reflector people that you coach?
Well, I guess what is the theme is inconsistency. That, life comes and goes, and for us there is no fixedness. No, there is no reliable way of meeting life except through the moon. Mm-hmm. And we have this tendency to be deeply sensitive to our environment, and also when you learn about how you're supposed to operate, you become even more sensitive too. So I become even more sensitive in how I use my energy or how I ignore it, and so. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of, honoring that inconsistency. It comes and goes. That's how it is. And then you just got to accept it. And you just got to surrender to the flow of life. And, not being able to figure out, I even had these things, you look at the transits, you're like, yeah, I will have so much energy to do this or that here. And then, it comes and turned out getting sick or so. And you're just not having any energy at all. So it's just, a matter of, accepting it and honor the inconsistency.
Have you found that specific channels coming into your design that you're, experiencing through the transits? For example, we've got this 360 right now. So mm-hmm. Those generator channels, can you really feel them when they come through? Do you notice the difference?
Yeah, well, there's a great tendency to, it's the life force. Yeah, it impacts our life force. And in this particular case, you see that, well, here is something that's this difficult is at the beginning, and, it's a bit messy, and then eventually you get more and more structure, and it's a beautiful process when you can just let go and experience it as it comes and goes. When you're not aware of it, it's easier to get lost and identify with it. And now when I'm aware of it, it's quite special to just, let it come and go. And just surrender and trust that it works out somehow. I don't need to figure out or push it.
Nice. And when you're watching your moon, your lunar cycle, is there a process that works best for you? Like as far as us being able to advise a reflector on, some methodology?
Yeah, well, there is no consistency in how much I observe it. Sometimes I'm really into it, and sometimes it's like, hey, where's the moon now? I think it's there, so, Mm-hmm. So that's always a theme, that there is no consistency in how we meet life or study or, work. And the most important, well, what I started to pay attention to first, it's when you have an electromagnetic connection and, a temporary activation. So that is, what really hits your attention in the beginning, and what is noticeable, most easy to noticeable, like a hanging gate or like an emphasis on a gate. That's tend to be way less, noticeable. But over time, you develop a sensitivity towards it, and you get that aspect too.
So there's no, that would make total sense. Thank you for sharing that. There's no consistency in being able to look in the morning and always see what's going on for that day or planning. It's just going with the flow.
Yeah. That's the theme. You know, it's like, yeah, some days you're all like, okay, well, this is exactly how the moon will move, and then some other days it's just it's not there, you know.
So when you're looking at your process going through this experience, in the very beginning, did you right away start studying human design, or did it take time for people to pull you into it? Or how did that, like, did you start to go into classes, or you just did your own thing, or what was your process that worked for you?
Well, I started with Darman, and he did my foundation reading. And then a few months later, I had a living your design course with him. And yeah, so that was how I started. And then from the beginning, when I heard about, you know, I'm a reflector, it was a few months before I had my foundation reading. What I was told is that I'm not here to initiate conversations. And I worked at the supermarket then, and I was always trying to, well, I had this, you know, idea that you're supposed to be polite and say hi. So I was always like, hey, 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 saying hey, hi to everyone. And when I stopped with that, that was the first thing I experimented with. And it was such a great relief to experience the appreciation of everyone. Every single one showed some kind of appreciation of me just letting go of trying to force them, or, you know, I just let them be. And I think that's something that Reflector gets. Maybe that's also has to do with my profile, but it's this ease to be with us sometimes. You know, when a reflector just let go and you spare, because you don't meet anything except, you know, a reflection or amplification through our unique design, then yourself. There's no definition there. So it's this kind of like, well, thank you for just letting me be basically with yourself in a sense. You know, I reflect the frequency, whatever, if they were grumpy or if they were happy or if they used not simply social, but when I stopped to, you know, trying to force people to be polite, to say hi, they started to show this very profound appreciation of me just being there. Yeah, so that was how I, yeah, what, you know, my studying, where it started, because that's really where you learn, you know, you get to experiment. And then yeah, I took the next class after living in design. I got my PhS reading from Lila then at the same time too. And then I think I took the Embrace the Path of the Moon with Darman and Lila. And after that, I think I took radical deconditioning. And then I think I took Rave ABC and cartography. And after that, I took radical transformation with Darman and Lila. And I think that's been the most helpful for me. Of course, the radical deconditioning, these are courses I think everyone should be a part of if you are, you know, have any ambition to really study human design, because that's so much of it, you know. It's more than just the information, to observe the experience of, yeah, how we are conditioned.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you started to experiment with your primary health system right away.
Yeah, pretty. I think it took me, yeah, 6 months or something like that. Yeah, into my experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how many of you recognize what radical deconditioning as a program is. Do you guys know what that means? Yeah, Helena? Okay, so could you explain what it looks like to go through that process? It was a year-long program, right?
No, the radical deconditioning was not a year long. I think that was around 8 weeks or something like that.
Okay.
The radical transformation with Darman and Lila, that was almost a year.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the radical deconditioning, it's kind of as the Path of the Moon class, but you look at all planets and how they pull you away or pull you through life. You know, it's like, okay, well, and here we have this planet, and it activates your sacral or your solar plexus. So how do you experience it? And yeah, so you take a closer look at the conditioning from the transits, basically.
And that's supposed to be what we're, as LOID guides, supposed to impart to our students who are reflectors, that they need to watch those transits and see what it does physically in the body. And that process takes time.
It does.
Yeah.
And well, it's easiest to start with the moon. That's what I tend to observe most is the moon, but also then the sun earth, because yeah, it's a week by week for us reflectors. It's, we live by those weeks.
I just had a thought. So if you are living by the moon, though, like the process of the cycles of life and the way that you experience the moon, I'm wondering if your experience of time is different than the way that we experience it. And I don't know how you would answer that, but do you recognize any differences between how you flow through life and the rest of us experience it?
Well, I used to have my own experience, how I experience time. But of course, yeah, I have a greater tendency of not being consistent in how I meet life. So I guess that it comes back to that. I cannot give you any clear answer, because I don't know how you experience life in times of how time passes and so.
Yeah.
Because the mechanics of the reflector, we are slow in processing. So in terms of a process of understanding something, we need more time. But you also got to recognize, when we had our month, the moon went through the whole photograph, the whole ray mandala, all aspects, all circuitry, every aspect, every genetic aspects of what it is to be a human. So we can have, when we let go of, when we surrender to our process, we get a richness to our life that's different from other types. It's yeah, before I met human design, I was seeing myself as a, what do you call, världsbildsutveckler. That would be kind of like a world image developer or something like that, to help humanity with understanding the totality or so.
Yeah. So you had a sense of that already from
yeah,
being young. In BG5, we call you evaluators, and your process of assimilation of information is called objective. Being very able to see all of it, the big picture view. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, in some cases, yeah.
Yeah. So the evaluator term, does that resonate for you?
Yeah, I can see, yeah.
And we're told that the place for a reflector, if we were to have them in a large business, in a group of people, you would be at the heart of the business, and you would evaluate who's speaking truth, who's lying, who's on it, who's different, what's going on, like having like a finger on the pulse of what's going on in that group. And then also that you're designed to be the one who is in charge of overseeing what people make, as far as can you see how that would be something that you would resonate to personally?
Well, I definitely, I don't want to be excluded from any processes when I'm anywhere. I need to actually, yeah, well, I guess it comes to recognition too, to be of a position of getting, being a part of the whole process. So I can get into the board meeting, or I could be at the ground level where the workers are, and to sample it all, being able to freely just spend time. And like I also like to I worked in a supermarket for before when I met human design, and for a few years. And I enjoyed just being together with people and just kind of surfing on their energy. And especially when it was working, when it was a group dynamic, I thrived. It's like that's simple. I'm just a part of a group, and the group is thriving. I'm happy, and there's people coming and go. It was amazing. And then we had at times when things didn't work, and I experienced all that pain, and I even got shit for it because I expressed it, you know. So with awareness that you see, okay, well, the reflector is not happy here. It's not the reflector that's the problem, you know. So I'm happy to being able to have taken a step away from being in the environment where I'm not recognized like that, and where I work now, I'm not recognized in that way, but I have a completely different influence because I'm operating correctly, and I got there in a correct way, and so it's a very different process today.
Something that you said struck me. I heard you say, I don't want to be excluded. Would you say that that's something that's common to a lot of reflectors? That there's this need to be the hub at the center of everything, to be involved?
Well, I think how it's played out in this world, in most cases, is because there are so much problems, mind-centered conditioning that's stuck. So you don't want to have reflectors around because they just, show off, they reflect the problem. So it's like, hey, instead of looking, hey, what is going on here? It's like, hey, get out of here. You're a problem. So,
Yeah, and as a 5, I mean, you could really end up getting projected on. If you see the problem and you tell them about it, they will be like, no, it's your fault if you're unlucky. And if they are very much not self, right? They could be, you said that they saw you as the problem when there was this tension in the group, or did I miss it?
No.
Yeah. So that might have been their projection. And of course, it doesn't have anything to do with reality, but.
Just a thought. You went all quiet.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand you.
So Helena, I think I hear what you're saying, and I also picked up on that too. So let's see if we can get Pontus to clarify or expand upon it. What I heard you say, Pontus, that she was reiterating was that, and I wrote this down, they don't want the reflector around because the reflector will amplify and show what's going on with the group. So they will take it, they will blame you personally since you're a 5-1, and we're going to project all of these problems onto you because you're the one who's pointing out the shit. Is that what happens?
Well, at that point, I didn't point out the shit. I was just living out the shit.
Living it out. Wow.
Yeah. So it wasn't me going around and it's like, this is not working. So I was just not happy being there. And as a result, I showed up late and, I wasn't performing as good. And so it was not me, walking around at that. I was deeply in my transference, my innocence. I didn't want to even, it's like, I'm not even a good team player. And so I had no ambition to make a career where I worked, but I enjoyed being there sometimes. It was nice. And I learned that, it's not a matter of where I am at that point. It's a matter of what I do with where I am right now. Even if it's not correct, you want to try to make the best of whatever it is. Just embrace it for what it is. It comes and goes anyway. So, yeah. But it was, of course, times where it was more difficult to just enjoy it because there were things that didn't work out. So.
Got it. I think I understand now more why they say you're the canary, you as a reflector type, in the coal mine, and you are just helpless to whatever that environment happens to give you.
Yeah.
Like you just live it, you be it. Wow.
Yeah.
So let's go into type to type interaction. And I'm wondering if you can, because this is one of the things I learned in the child development analyst class with Darmen and Leela, is that, you know, in the hierarchy of initiating other people, you know, because you learned that right away, that it's not about initiating conversation with anybody. Yeah. You really have to wait. Was that something that was hard for you to let go of? I know I heard it about work, but like in our interactions with work people, you know, do you really have to just sit and wait until they specifically initiate you into a conversation about a specific topic?
Well, it depends on the situation. If it's just about me giving information or connecting about a matter, for example, well, with my son, he's a manifesting generator. I can, you know, see if he's available for me. But in terms of initiating a conversation and more in terms of talking about something, you know, how's the weather or whatever, I can never be especially when it comes to someone with a defined throat, I'm not the one that, you know, drives the conversation. So I can be a guide of it, but I experienced in many cases that it just works best if I just let go of trying to say anything or start something, because it's not on me. And of course, that's been difficult and challenging sometimes, all from, you know, family relationships of just the public social conversations and stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes it's been more difficult, and overall I think just knowing that, hey, I'm not here to initiate conversation, that's just a great relief. So yeah, that really helped me.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how our panel of students and fellow guides are feeling about the conversation. Is there anything that you guys would like to ask? And welcome, Jennifer. I'm glad that you're here. Of Pontus, before we continue. I also want to respect his time and check his energy, because we've been at this a half an hour. So how are you, Helena?
Well, I do have a few questions.
Okay.
And I don't know if I should.
So Helena, your audio is really bad. Maybe turn off the videos and just do our videos. We still want to see you.
I can go and get my microphone.
It's the internet. Is it bad for you guys too, or is it just me?
It is, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, just turn off our cameras, and that will be easier on the. And so it just make it so that you just one person.
And I click the button hide thumbnail video, or?
Oh, it might be because I'm not sharing my screen. So you might need to just go on voice for questions, please.
Okay.
See if that's working.
Is that working better? Because it might be that I'm actually on my neighbor's internet, but I didn't intend it to be that way.
We can hear you now. Go ahead and ask your questions. If that's okay, Pontus, do you have some more energy for us? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and I just noticed that you're on the cross of refinement. And do you notice if you meet someone from the same cross? Because my husband is, and I couldn't help but being curious.
Just in general, my partner, she's also born she's born 9 hours after me, so we're born both as reflectors in the same cross, 5-1 reflectors. Mm-hmm. And then we have a neighbor here. She's born on the 2nd February, and she's a 6-2 manifesting generator on the left angle cross of refinement. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, what you have in common, it's, you know, this neediness. and then the need for a retreat too.
Yeah.
And yeah, and yeah, well, especially with my partner, we have we have very similar aspects, so that's very noticeable. You know, both the need for resources and everything, you know, that's connected to the 19th gate, all the needs, and the need for retreat, to, you know, spend time alone and to be able to reflect on the past experiences, and then this deeply creative force and the direction, and also the yeah, I know. I'm just thinking of our neighbor. She's a 6'2". She's also needy, and yeah, there's of course aspects there that you recognize.
Yeah, because I was thinking if it's like if you feel energetically the resonance if someone has the same, but that might be too advanced for someone to be able to do that, perhaps. But I was just curious if that would it be even possible for a human being to sort of feel the presence of their the same cross in their aura. I don't know. And interestingly enough, my husband is also born the 2nd of February, like your neighbor, by the way, but he's a 6'3".
What year?
1968.
Okay. Well, I must say that there is some resonance when it comes to Godhead. I know a few people that's born, you know, with the same, let's say, with the same Godhead, and there is something special with that.
But do you have a Godhead? I was looking for his and I couldn't find it.
Keepers of the wheel.
Yeah.
And that is. Sorry, that
it's
might.
Not a Godhead. Well, yes, I understand. It's not specifically Godhead, but yeah, it is. But
okay.
Not as the others.
So in alignment with that question, if I could interject before you go on, I heard you had a couple more questions, Helena, but in alignment with that one, Pontus, is it easy for you to discern types, auric types, when you're interfacing with them? Like, have you ever played that guessing game? Like, oh, that person has to be a this, and then you look them up and they're not, or whatever.
Constantly, I'm doing that, and it turns out that it's not a great gift of mine of being able to determine the type of other beings, because I've been so wrong a few times.
Okay.
And that hurts a bit, but I guess that's the reflector, you know, not good at trees, but great at forests. So, yeah.
There we go. That's a great recognition. It's more about the forest, not the trees. Yeah. Julie is writing, I was born on the same Godhead, 41 is the gate. I've been watching this as well. Thank you for saying that, Pontus. It was helpful to hear. So Helena, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask before we move and check in with everybody?
Yeah, I did. I was thinking about, I mean, you follow the moon is like, the moon is really what drives you, and what about specifically, do you have a different relationship? I mean, the moon is what travels through your system and all the gates of your system in a month. I guess it does in all of us, but do you have a special relationship to your moon as well? I mean, your driving force. Can you, I don't know if that is a weird question again, but.
Do you mean with the moon, or just like my personality moon, or the sign moon, or?
Probably I would guess the personality moon. as we seem to be perhaps more aware of our personality side.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely having a relationship, or it's a great part of me, as my personality. You know, it's for first gate, and yeah, so it's very noticeable, and also my design moon. So yeah, that's a that's a special one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question, Helena. And if I could just ask it in a different way, we know that 70% of the energy that imprints a human being comes from the sun and earth, right? That's the major part of us, is our cross. And she was asking you, what's your relationship to that moon? Do you recognize, or have you ever heard anybody say that that gate activation, yes, it's a big part of all of us, but is it more significant for you? Do you focus more on that? Like, as an example here, do you externalize or share your daydreams and your fantasies a lot? Is that something that you see yourself doing?
Yeah, well, in some cases, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and focusing.
I love to, you know, share my dreams about like a better future or so.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually about sustainable direction, and you know, it comes with a cross too.
Mm-hmm.
So the need for resources and territory, and you know, spirituality and connection with other beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize that I have a, you know, a sense of a higher direction in terms of, you know, where we are heading, and where I think it's kind of like, well, yeah, it's not much, you know, the second gate. It's not about. It's just about going somewhere, you know, and then you point it out, and if some people might see it, or some other don't. So I guess that's, you know, it's very driven by the moon, how that gets expressed. And it's almost like I recognize my design moon more, because it's such a big part of my work. You know, I'm working on this, what you're showing now, my photograph.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a drive for, you know, focusing on the details.
You guys, we were talking last week about my body graph, the new transit feature that's coming out, and it is so detailed. It is very, very, very detailed, and focusing on the little details. That's what makes my body graph so amazing, is that it does cover a lot of detail, and it's coming out even more. So you can see then that this is a big part of what your expression of your cross. So in BG5, we would call the moon your mission in life. The moon is your mission. So your mission of focus and your mission of a better future, of daydreaming about a collective reality, a shared reality that makes progress and change and has growth. That's one of the things that you externalize or share.
Yeah.
Helena, anything else for you?
Thank you. I love the answers and what you shared. I was actually thinking about you're married, or you're in a relationship with someone who's also a reflector, and you have a little manifesting generator sun who has a very similar chart to mine, actually. And how I so wished I was in his shoes to have experienced that kind of parents. I mean, how cool is that? And how is it to, I mean, because you, Lavina, who asked about time, I mean, you have a kid and you have to adapt to like everyday life and the kindergarten and everything like most people have to adapt to. So even if you had your own sense of timing and time, you it's kind of a tricky one if you have a child and you have the school system to adapt to and things like that. But anyway, I lost my thread. I was going to ask about your experience of raising an energy type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of pushes you to the limit of, yeah, you just got to surrender.
That sounds like kids in general, sorry. They do know how to push your buttons.
Yeah, they do, but the thing is, as the non-sacral being, we're not designed to exchange energy.
Yeah.
So you have this natural way of exchanging energy with any other generator. And we have this, what is it? This, Leon, he's a sleeping phoenix. He has the channel of charisma, and it's activated by his, the sign Sun Earth.
Mm.
He's extremely in the now, bumping into us all the time. You're with him and he's constantly bumping into you all the time. And that's it's very precious, but it's also sometimes, if you're not balanced, it's challenged. It's challenging. And we, if we deplete our energy, that's just, yeah. That's something we need to pay for then. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, us in general, just being wise about life, we need to he forces us to surrender in a more radical way. It's like, well, we cannot be concerned about this because it drives us, it drains our energy. So we just need to let go and trust that things work out. And we had this crazy experience. It was this winter. My energy was down for 2 months. I didn't work at all. I took care of my family. Everyone was just down. Leon, he was sick too, and of course he got better before us. And then, but just letting go. Life it works out. Yeah. And that's the lesson, I believe, for everyone, but especially for reflectors, because we don't need to prove ourselves, and life just delivers what we need when we let go. It's kind of the best thing you can do, because it's so exhausting and challenging, or it's just draining to try to figure out how to survive, because it doesn't make any sense how things will work out. That something happens, and then you're like, "Well, awesome."
That is the surprise. The whoa, awesome! Wow, that worked out. Like, what does surprise feel like for you? In BG5, Karen often says it's delight. Is that something that you would resonate with?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a relief, a release. Because waiting is never free from pressure. If you look at my lines, it says it there. But for everyone, waiting, it's a matter of you need to still deal with the mental pressure, the pressure in the body, the material pressure. I think it's in the notes, actually, 5th line. Yeah, here. Yeah, so that's kind of like, yeah. And when something happens and it just works out, it's this delight. It just feels, it's like I didn't need to fight for this, so it just showed up, and then hey, And of course, sometimes, you know, you need to work. That's a part of it too. You know, yeah. But when you learn, you know, when enough is enough, and I don't need to prove myself, and so it works out.
Yes. Cool. Thank you for the exchange of energy or conversation there, Helena. Anyone else want to ask some questions of Pontus before we
Sorry. I'd like to just ask, what would your best advice to another reflector be? Or what would what's the best wisdom that you have about being a reflector that we could like offer someone else who is, you know, that's universal? If there is such a thing to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patience, just shake them and, you know, tell them to be really patient. Well, I noticed there's a lot of things that you just gain through life experience, and, you know, it's a matter of if it's, you know, it's not like you have a choice of what your experience will be. Some people are just, you know, on the fractal line, so they get it. But to emphasize, you know, well, you have the moon cycle, you know, take your time before making any major decisions. It will work out, you know, you don't need to figure out. And, you know, the open centers, look at that and don't identify with what you take in from others. And also place how important that is, because yeah, you know, when you wait out and you honor your strategy and authority, life moves you to the correct place and things get easier. You know, it's if a reflector can recognize that what the reflector take in, it's not theirs, it's just a matter of the place, then they will have a greater advantage in life.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've definitely seen, I have two reflectors in my life like that I'm close to, that come to me in cycles when they're lost, and then they always show up, and one of them's open to human design and the other one's not at all, but I watched their process. And another question that I had was, what does you know, when you're making a decision and you're processing that decision, what does it feel like when you get to the point of, you know, knowing what the right decision is? Like, because
first of all, I don't really experience me making decisions. It's just the movement, you know. All of a sudden something shows up and I'm like, it resonates with me or not, and then over time I notice if that's actually something that kind of takes me somewhere else, if there's something that moves me, if that's actually something that's happening. So it's more of an observation that's like, okay, well, that seems to happen now, and and then you just, you know, try to let go and stay as present in the process as possible. And it's always, well, it's this surprise, you know, of the moments like, wow, that seems to be happening now. So yeah.
Cool.
That was an amazing interchange. Thank you, Jennifer. One of the things that inspired me, what I heard you say was, I don't experience myself as making the decision. Like, that is such an incredible, enlightened perspective, because we're not making the decision. You know, it's actually life is happening, but you experience on a profound, all the time, profound level. So the other thing that kind of tweaked, I heard, I lost it, hang on a second. You were saying, I heard you say that don't tell the reflector, don't identify with what you take in from others.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you identify about you as you? Because we have channels we can identify with.
Yeah, well, I guess there's awareness, and that's it. It's like I'm awareness. It's a vibration of a movement through space and time, and I'm me through my life, but it's not anything that's fixed, and there's definitely something that well, I guess that's the design and memory of this being, but it's pretty, say, impersonal in a way. I guess it's really about the experience of being in the body, and I guess the pleasure of being in a body to be able to just, yeah. I guess there is not that much that I identify me as me, but there is some feeling there. There's yeah, that changes, but yeah. I don't hear you.
For us as projectors, we have this recognition. At some point, we see ourselves reflected back from the other person. We can see ourselves in the other person or what's going on with them, and then we relate something to ourselves. For you, you don't have that awareness, or what is it like for you? If you've heard what it's like for us, can you describe the difference?
No,
what it's like for you?
I hear your question. It's totally not like I've experienced myself getting reflected back by others. It's not. I recognize myself reflecting back others. And it's this kind of unattachment from the energy that flows through me when it comes to dealing with others, and also when it comes to me being with myself or just being. And that's how life is supposed to be for us. It's the pleasure of being a reflector is when you're not attached to anything, when life just comes and goes, and when you're in a position of feeling good in your body, and that comes and goes. Sometimes I feel great, it's just awesome to be in this form, and sometimes it's like, hey, what happened, what this inconsistent feeling of, I guess anyone with an open spleen can recognize that too. Sometimes you just don't like, will I even survive this life? And sometimes it's just like, I was full of everything that life is about. This experience of bliss and ease, and life is moving through, and every breath is used an exchange of, or just a movement of love out of me. So yeah.
Wow. This has been fabulous to be able to hear from you personally, Pontus, without any agendas, without anything. Like, I can recognize that we've got a lot of value from it. I don't want to have too much. Oops, I have a chart reading. I did not know that. We usually take a break at 50 minutes, so we're gonna let you go. And thank you so much for being here. This was fabulous. Everyone, please feel free to say your goodbyes to Pontus.
Fine, thank you. It was very enlightening. I wish
Okay.
we'd had more time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, thank you. It was fantastic to have you here.
Yeah, well, very nice for me being a part of this. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Helena.
It just happened through me.
Hey!
The flow. I mean, this was not figured out. It just happened. It just happened.
I didn't want to impose on Pontus, so I was going to have us wait until we did the group thing, but this was way more intimate and fabulous, so thank you, everyone. And Friday, we're going to be hearing from Kathy doing her reflector delivery, so I look forward to that. Kathy, yeah?
I was going to say, now that he came, I don't really need to. I can do that other one if you want me to, but it's up to you.
Well, and it's part of the guide training to deliver if it feels good to you, if it's something that you, so we'll see you guys on Friday.
I'll be even sorrier I didn't pick his brain.
Oh, well, I'm sure.
But everybody asked most of my questions, with the exception of maybe just two. But
do you guys want to, I mean, I don't know how much energy you have left, Pontus. Do you want to?
The only thing I wanted to ask him, and it's kind of a stupid question, but in the book it said babies come in just knowing what's going on with their parents and everything, that you just like absorb everything around you. So it was a mundane question of, when did you have an awareness that you had that wonderful gift, that you sort of kind of just know what's going on around you in your environment?
When did I recognize that? When I started to recognize that?
Did you have a sense of that as a child?
Well, I was born into like as the last part of a completed penta, and so I come from a background of a lot of stability, and I think that I carry that with me. And there was a point where when my siblings, because I'm 10 and 11 years younger than them, when they moved from home, and I guess that was tough for me. But I don't know if that was really some recognition. Well, through my life, I definitely feel that, you know, I've been sensing people's troubles. Yeah. And expressing, things that's not been working in an environment or so. That I cannot put my finger on right now exactly when I really started to become, why? I think it's probably when I met you in the sun somewhere, because that was first when I, stopped to identify with everything. As long as you identify with it, there is this tendency of just being lost in it. So, without that recognition, you can be very lost as a reflector. And we are, I would say, slow. And because of how we are, always moving through life without a this consistency of, someone with a definition, we don't have the movement of the moon. There is this tendency of, wanting to keep things, the same. You're not open. You don't want to change things because there is already so much going through, so much change going through you. So then you try, the not self tries to, okay, well, Christmas needs to be this or that, it needs to be like this or that. So we have this fixedness. I guess that's not really, it's not really connected to your question, but yeah, that's what
It is. And the other aspect, when it came to like decision makings and even relationships, it more or less said that reflectors should give themselves one whole complete cycle of the moon so that you can really develop trust in that other person or trust in that relationship. And the only other aspect that it also said that you normally travel in an entourage. You have people that you can use as sounding boards, and it literally recommended at least 3 different people, you know, during your cycle that you could like discuss things with. Is that an accurate reflection to pass on to reflectors?
Yeah, well, I must say I'm not always using people as a soundboard.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I don't know if things would turn out better if I would. It can be very valuable. Well, I definitely, you know, if something shows up, I speak with people about it. And yeah, so that's actually something I do. But it's not about, yeah, it's just about hearing what I have to say about it. If it's something that
Your voice, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate the feedback.
Yay. Awesome. So this was the reason I have a reading right now is because we kind of extended our classes a little bit and went beyond, and also we took a break last week. So I want to thank you guys all for being here. I'll see you on Friday. Pontus, thank you again so much. That was really awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
I'm going to stop the recording now.
Okay, me too. Thanks.
All
Thanks,
right.
Kathy. Bye.